Dude, bro, it's Tuesday, but tomorrow's Wednesday, so we already at hump day, baby. It's almost the weekend.
That's right. Joey, how you doing?
I've been better. Um, Definitely been better. Been a terrible week of football to watch, and I'm ready to talk about
I couldn't disagree any more. So,
it.
speaking of that, Joey, why don't you start us off with what happened with the Cowboys this week and why you're so upset?
Really, it's just it's the same thing it always is with the Cowboys. Defense can't stop a nosebleed. We let Bryce Young. Every team, every quarterback that plays us, it's their get right game. Every quarterback has their best game of their season against us each week. We're giving up like 412 yards per game. It's just uncompetitive defensive play, and it's just unwatchable at times. And I don't know how we get any better with what's going on. And it's a shame because on the flip side, you got your offense averaging nearly 30 points a game, and you can't do anything at all to help them out. If we had like a middle of the pack defense, we're sitting at 5-1, and instead we're having this conversation at 2-3-1. It's just Cowboys football. It's how it always goes. There was a stat I saw earlier today. I sent it to you, Scott. And if you look at our last 5 years, we're going back to 2020. The offense, it's first, 20th, and third. And you pair that with just such a terrible defense. I just don't understand how it's as bad as it is. I don't know. It's just a lot to talk about with the defense.
It's a lot to unpack. I mean, it's like you also mentioned. You guys are like the Bengals of the NFC, more like the Bengals team of last year when Joe Burrow was healthy, great offense and a terrible defense. And you had the analogy last week, I think it was, of an offense that's so great that you'll be in every single game because of it, and a defense that's so bad that you will be in every single game no matter what. And I thought that was a great analogy. I was watching Red Zone to take in football this weekend. I was in Tampa. That's part of why we're doing this on Tuesday. I wish we could do it on Monday. But I just remember watching George Pickens and Dak Prescott going off. I was so happy because I have Pickens, and I just turn around and the Cowboys lose out of nowhere, and I'm like, how did they manage to lose to the Panthers? I mean, they are 3-3 now. They seemingly improved a little bit, but yeah, it's just I can't agree with you more. It's disappointing for Dak. It's disappointing for Pickens in the offense. CD will be back next week, but yeah, Dan, any thoughts on the Cowboys game?
I mean, it was a shocker, 100%. I think Rico Dowdle played that game with a little chip on his shoulder. If I'm gonna be honest with you, that dude was definitely wanting the rock in that whole game. Personally, it's just a little bit of a shock. You know what I mean? I put the Cowboys defense in for fantasy this week because, of course, I had faith. I can't lie. I did have.
Terrible mistake.
I was going to think after the conversation we had last week.
I know, bro. I had faith. I was like, you know what? Maybe there could be some turnaround, and I was absolutely wrong. I can't bullshit you. So I don't know why you're mad, Joey. I decided to believe in you guys for a second, bro. But you know what? It's okay. Yeah, I know. Clearly. But as far as everything, I'm not. I don't really hate the Cowboys for where they're at right now. You know what I mean? Like I think the offense is flourishing completely. It's just that's where I'm just curious to see what these upcoming first round picks look like for you guys, and if they're not all defensive round picks, I don't know what you guys are doing personally.
Yeah,
It's kind of where my stance is on
I
it.
have a few things to add to that. If you play referencing fantasy football, if you play fantasy and you have Chuba Hubbard, just to remind you, he played last week was the Dolphins, one of the worst run defenses in football. This week was Dallas. If you are a Chuba Hubbard owner, I would sell him immediately for whatever I can get for him because he's not doing what he's done these last 2 weeks, and some people seem to think it's here to stay. I don't believe it at all. And number two, I have a question to propose to you guys. I don't know what you guys think, but is George Pickens better than CeeDee Lamb? That's kind of what I'm starting to wonder because he's having the calmest 150 plus yard games I've ever seen.
I know, he does it really effortlessly, doesn't he not?
Yeah,
I think.
and he's
Go ahead.
he's doing stuff that I don't know if CD can do. It's kind of like, is this guy better than CeeDee Lamb? That's what I'll leave it there.
Yeah, I just quick response to that. I think it's actually a good question. That thought actually genuinely crossed my mind last weekend. I think the big difference is they win in different ways. Like Pickens is much more physical, And personally, I desire that more in a wide receiver as long as they can still get some separation, which you can manufacture on like crossing routes and stuff. So I still think CD's better for now, but we'll see how the rest of this season goes. But it's not like all these points are coming from behind or anything, so I think it's a legitimate question. So
No, one more thing though, just to talk about George a little bit more. I think what we're seeing with Dallas is like he's doing a lot, like running after like yards after the catch. We're seeing a lot with Dallas and George Pickens. That's something we didn't see at all when he was in Pittsburgh.
yeah,
But if you remember George Pickens coming out of Georgia, he was a yak guy. So it seems to be like he's back to his college route in Dallas right now. This is easily the best he's ever played. So I just feel like there's a lot there with him, and I'm nervous about him being a free agent and the type of contract he's gonna get.
He's probably gonna acquire on like a team, someone probably like who's looking for a big receiver because
Giants.
the Chiefs could be looking for one possibly next year. Who else is out there? The Bills, really? The Patriots?
Just think about it. If he drops 1,500 yards, what kind of contract does he demand?
He's gonna. I feel like he's the type of guy that definitely ask for 40 mil. Like he's not gonna take the T Higgins money. That's
I don't know,
how I
but
kind of feel about it.
He's gonna do it with that look that he had on draft night.
Yeah. All right, Dan.
Talk to me.
I've been waiting to hear your thoughts. We kind of already did a live stream, so we can be a little bit more brief about this. But what are your thoughts after a couple days after the Eagles' shocking loss to the New York Giants on Thursday Night Football?
I mean, to me, overall, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, I feel like I love my Bears to death, but there's a lot of face in a sense when it comes to like, oh, we just got to lock in and we just got to do this and handle, day by day. And, as you guys like to bust jokes saying Instagram quote after Instagram quote, but it's like, now we're in this kind of situation where it's just like, anybody and everybody could have easily seen where like we were on the live stream like talking about play by play, like, oh, it looks like they're going to do this, it looks like they're going to do that, and it's like you're able to call the play, we're able to call the play from a live stream. So what are professionals who are getting paid almost millions of dollars on a sideline probably doing the same exact thing? So it's kind of like, how do I say, the Eagles played and came into MetLife not prepared, not ready. I'm not even going to give the injuries as an excuse, because in reality, it's just like you should have been prepared and known that the matchup you were going to have was going to be like you were going to go play the Giants, who know they had something to prove. Like, you guys won a game with Dart once, lost to the Saints, and they're going to come back the next game with Scatterboo and Dart, which you saw it. Like, this dude was scrambling like he was an elite, like, quarterback basically around our freaking defensive line, you know what I mean? And it was so bad that Zadarius Smith decided to retire before this week even came in. So it's just like, and this is what I mean. It's just like, overall it's upsetting and agitating, you know what I mean? Especially since then the Phillies also got knocked out in the same week. Like he was
to be a Philadelphia fan.
It was absolutely horrendous, bro. You know what I mean? And
oh boy, we lost Dan, but for the time being,
what do I say?
He's back.
Hold up, we loaded. We're back. It's one of those things to me where it's kind of like, how do I say? Going forward, there's no really like excuses here. Like, everybody has a slump. I expected a slump, not that bad, but it's like now we play Carson Wentz, so it's like this is really where you kind of show whether you're out of the top 10 to the rest of the league, whether you're a bum team to the rest of the league, whether you came in, you got rid of the wrong people, and now you guys are having to catch up. You know what I mean? Because in reality, I'm not going to blame Hurts. I'm not going to blame Sirianni. It's like the only person that is the target is your OC, because he's the only drastic change, in my genuine opinion.
Okay, so this is where I guess I'll hop in. First, I'll just quickly comment on the Giants and say they lost like the game versus the Saints. Is a team the Giants were much better than, even without Neighbors. Turning the ball over 5 times in a row, I don't even know if anyone's ever won a football game like that. So it should have been a tell that, the Giants aren't that bad. If they show up and they play clean, like, they're going to force you to win the game, and the Eagles did not do that in any way. I mean, you 100% have a point with Kevin Patullo and the offensive play calling. But Sirianni's he was hired as an offensive head coach. We know he's like a CEO now. But what is he doing as like the CEO of the team to sort of get them out of that hump and sort of get them, fired up for the second half? Because we've seen not just the predictable offense, but the regression in the second half of every game versus the Broncos, versus the Giants. Every single game so far this season, you guys are totaled up to be like the last in every offensive metric in the second half. And I think some of that has to fall on Sirianni for being the head coach of the team, and not only to help make some of the offensive adjustments, but talk to the team, get them fired up, get rid of this drama with A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts. And when it comes to Jalen Hurts, I'd say, and I'm talking about the Eagles because to me this game was more about the Eagles losing it than the Giants winning it. I mean, the Giants played really, really well for what they're capable of, but
I agree.
Jalen Hurts missed a wide open touchdown to Devontae Smith that could have, and it's just a play like that would typically break the Giants' back, and he didn't make that play, and it's just one of the few mistakes he made that were completely crucial, whether it's that or the interception trying to make a comeback and draw within 3, and throwing an interception when there's a wide open A.J. Brown in the end zone, and then just kind of suffering behind an offensive line that only lost Landon Dickerson, and this Giants defensive line has a ton of talent, but it really hasn't like taken over any games this year. So I think it was just definitely like a team collapse. The Giants focused on Saquon, and there wasn't really a counterpunch, and we've seen that this year from the Eagles. So we'll come back to the Eagles with the top 10 lists. Little hint for mine, if you know what I mean, and I'm sure you'll have them somewhere in there. It sounds like Joey has not having it at all when it comes to the Eagles in the top.
Bro, definitely put them at 20.
Probably.
They were a fringe top 10 team for me last week. Let's just say it's safe to say they're out.
They're out. Okay. So that's the Giants Eagles game. So that covers 2 of our NFC East teams, and then finally the Commanders and the Bears on Monday night. I was actually on an airplane as this game was going down, so I had to go back and rewatch. And what I noticed was, going up 13-0 after the Commanders turned the ball over twice. The Commanders did start to reel back in. It's important to remember they don't have Terry McLaurin right now. Obviously, Jaden Daniels, number 1 wide receiver. I think once Terry's back and Deebo Samuel as your wide receiver 2, with Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, at running back, he had the other turnover fumbling in this game that allowed the Bears to take that early lead. To me, it still looked like the Commanders were the better team, the more well-coached team, but the execution and some of the lack of talent on defense, allowing Ben Johnson to kind of pick apart what they try to do, bringing pressure. The Bears upgraded their offensive line, the coverage, Ben Johnson scheming guys open. It just there wasn't enough playmakers on the Commanders defense to kind of get like a turnover back, in the second half, or like a huge play on defense or a stop when they really needed it. Jaden Daniels didn't play his best game. He's still coming back from injury though, and like I said, Terry McLaurin's out there. So I thought this game would be kind of close. I didn't write off the Bears, but I didn't think the Commanders would win. So for me, them losing this game is a bad sign. They've I thought they'd be able to win it without Terry McLaurin. Apparently, that was not the case. Definitely could have gone either way. I mean,
Debo killed me in fantasy, bro.
Yeah, Debo's, and that's what I'm saying. Is Debo is feasting as a number 1 right now. So once he becomes a number 2, and you have a true alpha out there, with Terry and Jaden, like more and more weeks away from his injury, opening up the run game with Krosky-Merritt. I think this offense can get back to kind of carrying them, taking early leads, and then letting the defense tee off, and let Dan Quinn kind of gain some pressure. Do any of you guys have any thoughts on the Commanders-Bears game?
I think that was kind of like it was a good culture win for the Bears, but Commanders-wise, I feel like they ran away with that game and they just made some costly mistakes, and that screwed them over. I mean, the 2 turnovers, the fumble from Jaden Daniels, which cost them the game, and then Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt
Yeah,
fumbling the ball.
Christian, right?
Now, those two are just some stuff you can't have happen. So I don't know. I don't really know. I think they're a tough team to rank because I don't. I think that they kind of like Dallas, kind of like Philly, the NFC East. They have a fraudulent defense, so I don't know. I don't know where to place them, and we're going to be seeing them this week. So be interested to see how that goes.
Yeah, I'm so excited to see how that game goes down. And it kind of leads into what I was going to finish off the NFC East segment with, as I don't really feel like there's an NFC East favorite right now, because if you ask me, there's no telling how bad this free fall could be for the Eagles. Remember, they were 10-1 before they started falling apart in 2023. So if they've already lost two in a row now, I think it's totally within the question to say they could go 500 or less than 500, maybe 8-9. I don't, if anything could happen with like injuries and stuff, and who knows what's going to happen at the trade deadline. Cowboys, this defense is the worst in the league. You got to remember the Ravens still don't even have Lamar Jackson out there, so I think they'll kind of dial it in, and they've shown that they can have a slow start and dial it up like last year. And then with the Commanders, we just discussed how Daniels isn't like 100% right now. They don't have Terry McLaurin, but I do think they're kind of like the steadiest team in the NFC East right now. And then the Giants are, I would say 2 turnovers away from being 3-3 right now. I think we would have won that Saints game, even without the Cam Scatterboo fumble return for 6. I think we would have still had a good chance to win that game. So there's no telling what Jackson Dart and the Giants are going to be able to do. Maybe they trade for a wide receiver and they can get close to that 7-8 win range. And it could be like a couple years ago when didn't the Commanders win the division at like 8-9, or wasn't it 9-7, or they had a tie or something? And that was the year they played the Bucks, Tom Brady's Buccaneers, in the playoffs, and they actually looked the best against them, which was shocking.
Yep.
It could be a really bad year for the NFC East, which means anyone could win it. So do you guys think there's no clear favorite in the NFC East right now, or do you kind of still lean one way or the other?
I would agree.
Yeah, I put it up in the air right now. I mean, listen, out of every division, we're the only division that has never had a consecutive winner for what? Since we've been like born, I think, right?
Pretty close to that, yeah.
So like pretty close to it, right? So it's just like I feel like this has always been a division where you're just like, who's going in? And it's always like to me, I think I always say we're like the wild card division, like at all times. So
yeah, I definitely feel that way right now. All right, time for our first